it seems like you've been spending quite a bit of time going upstate as you've been kind of working towards building a framework and a foundation for your organization, the Beloved Community for Engaged Spirituality, that's up
Mhm.
near Poughkeepsie. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. 20 minutes east of Poughkeepsie.
Yeah. So, how has that been going? Because I know that you have a Give Butter campaign, and so things
Yeah.
are still kind of on the upswing as far as like development goes. But how exciting!
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so my partner's an Episcopal priest, and so as a Buddhist Dharma teacher, the two of us really wanted to live contemplatively ourselves, kind of have a bit of a monastic framework for our lives with a schedule that people can, who, we want to create a space where people can come and practice with us and really find the still quiet voice inside and also in listening deeply to ourselves to themselves find ways to express what their purpose is here in terms of engaged um, you know service in the world. And so we were offered this uh, monastery. A monk started it 40 years ago, Brother Victor, and he passed away. And so the volunteers of the monastery wanted someone else to steward it so it could stay a spiritual center. And so the buildings will need to be renovated and the land will need to be restored. We hope to live there and hope to have a small practice center where about 20 people can come and do retreats and 5 hermitages where people can practice solo silent retreats as well. So we're just at the beginning phase. We have a architect. We're beginning to work with a landscape architect to kind of figure out where everything should go given what's happening with the land, and also how to really support all the species on the land, how to, encourage native species, discourage invasive species, and provide habitat as we, enter a very turbulent climate emergency. What can we do so that maybe species in the area who don't live there now, but who may need to live there in 10 years or 20 years, that we think about that as we restore the land so that it can be as welcoming, as life-giving a place as possible, not just for humans, but for plant and animal species, and just really being like a sanctuary for all, and being very earth-centered, nature-based. Um, so even thinking of how to build on the land so that we have as little impact on the animals that are there now as possible, and yeah, just really care for all the species. So that's really lovely. So yeah, we're just at the beginning of kind of getting our a site plan, and then we'll start working on the design of the buildings once we have a sense of where everything should go. Um, but the we're already doing days of practice on the land. You don't need to have buildings to practice there, and it's been really lovely to have people there and to meditate and to do walking practice and to just benefit from all the green, from all the beauty of the land. And I think the land was happy. We were there too.
I'd imagine, I mean, like, because especially it must be a beautiful time because all the trees that are maybe more or less dormant right now are starting to have some green show up on their branches and things like that.
Yeah.
And uh, I've seen some pictures of the current uh, design, or just some of the pictures that people on Google Maps have taken and posted to the website.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some icons there, for like religious icons that are, I believe, of some saints and other figures within Christianity, and they're all kind of they're these little, uh, I guess maybe structures that are built for them. They have like little houses. It looks like that they're kind of the statues are in,
Mm-hmm.
and I was wondering how much like within the design element you were going to be having some of those things still intact, maybe like from just maybe as a harkening back or an honoring of the and the continuation of what that monastery is now, and also too like weaving in some other elements that maybe have some more Buddhist uh, aesthetics or
Yeah.
Buddhist elements as well.
Yeah, yeah. So we want to keep the icons and put them throughout the renovated retreat center, um, and maybe even have an icon workshop where people can learn how to make icons, because they're just very it's in the Eastern Orthodox tradition. The icon actually captures the energy, the spiritual energy of the being that it represents. And so there's a very profound practice of visio divina, right? This like sacred practice of taking in a visual um, image. And so we'd like to really, the ones that we can rehabilitate or keep in good condition. We want to keep those, and then we'll keep the chapel that's already there. That's one thing, and then we'll add a meditation hall. That's our hope. Yeah, if everything is allowed. And so there'll be Buddhist and Christian images, but we may figure out a way also to have some space where it's beyond Buddhism and Christianity, where there's just a space that invites you to come back to yourself, whoever you are, because we want everyone to feel welcome there, regardless of their spiritual tradition or none. They might not have any spiritual tradition and not want to have one, and that's fine. Like if they want to practice and free the heart and mind, and everyone will be welcome. So I think we'll have maybe dedicated Buddhist and Christian spaces, but also um, yeah, find ways to really have space that really reflects back to people something that's unlimited.
Certainly, and I feel like those, especially those silent hermitages or those spaces that are for people that are on solo, more or less silent retreats.
Mm,
Um, there is something about being kind of embedded in nature and all that,
mhm,
and like having
mhm.
some maybe some visual separation from the written word, or maybe
Yeah.
some other iconography where you are really alone and open with everything that really is in a natural setting, and that can be available to people that are of most or if not all faith traditions, but also for people that don't find religious traditional elements being appealing to them, they can participate, which is really wonderful. And
Mhm,
uh, this is something that I feel like you have uh, navigated quite a bit, and just being uh, having a relationship, being a partner with someone that is an Episcopal priest, Father Adam Bucko, I believe, right?
okay. Yes.
And and you have Zen training and Vipassana training,
Mhm,
and then here's this space that you'll be establishing together that has Christian elements, Buddhist elements, and then open-ended elements as well, and very welcoming. It is creating spaces that are multi-religious something that is a delicate balance for you? Do you find it to be like a delicate thing that you have to be very careful with? Or do you find that it actually, when you dive deep into both traditions and the way that they can manifest in various ways, that it can actually be the similarities are actually and the truths are very resonant from both, and so that actually it's very natural to have these things kind of in the same space together. I was just curious, like how you feel about um, how you go about creating those spaces that are merging, blending, respecting
mhm,
respecting their own sanctity and their approaches as individual, but
mhm.
also really embracing that commonality too.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. What Adam and I share comes out of what we practice together. So we have a morning meditation practice. Adam does his contemplative prayer. I do meditation, but he has a Christian altar. I have a Buddhist altar. We face those, and we're in silence for some time, and then we will often read from a Buddhist book and a Christian book, and then talk about whatever insights arise in having those two things in conversation with each other. And there's often a kind of eerie, it's almost like, because it's a pretty spontaneous, oh, this time let's choose this book. Sometimes we'll stick with one book for a while, but the ways that the two teachings can connect is often kind of like, whoa, there's a lot of resonance, and and then it'll bring up things in our own lives. We'll realize when Adam explains some Christian teaching that I'm not familiar with, and I say, oh, that reminds me of this teaching in Buddhism, and there's such a lovely kind of real like one thing stimulates the growth of the other. That's how we feel when we start to really hit. There's this metaphor that I think Thomas Merton, or maybe it's Father Bede Griffiths, uses, where each different religion is like a well, but they're all tapping into the same groundwater. And so when we get into those waters, it just becomes very joyful, very kind of energizing to see, oh, that's how, like Adam's explaining something will help me understand a Buddhist teaching better. And me sharing something from Buddhism will help Adam kind of understand his own tradition better. So I think they really are, when you go into it with an open mind, and whenever I read the Christian mystics or any mystic, really, it's like the mystics are in touch with this place that's beyond like the confines of one tradition. They're in the groundwater, not in the well. And all the mystics seem to get to that place of like oneness, of, emptiness, or total interconnection. And so so there's just it can be very freeing to actually connect. I mean, when we both just have an open mind, and like we really want to explore, and it's not like we come to this place of conflating, or like everything's the same, or flattening the nuances. It's not about like equating everything, or this is like this in Christianity, that equals that in Buddhism. They can be, the differences are fine, but it's the respect for the uniqueness of each tradition, and the honoring of like the various people, right? Like we read a lot about different people who really practiced in these different traditions. That's what helps us to also appreciate where there is real common ground.
And to have that resonance that happens with that groundwater, to be able to be surprised by, oh
Mm-hmm.
wow, that's something that flows through my
Yeah.
lens. That's what I've, because
Yeah.
you have extensive monastic training, you have extensive monastic and dharmic uh, training and everything like that, and to have things that happen today, or like just like as of recent, that can resonate with you from another tradition. It's like, oh wow, like I really thoroughly know elements of my tradition, and for this to kind of come up and surprise me, or help illuminate elements of my tradition that I uh, have spent so much time with, it must be a really wonderful experience, and a very unifying experience. And I know that you also, I don't know if it's with the center that you're organizing upstate, but there are workshops that you are leading that take time to identify and understand saints and bodhisattvas, and as figures. And
Mhm.
these are some meetings that you have with others. But I was wondering if, as you've been studying as of recent, are there any saints or bodhisattvas that are right now playing an important role for you in your day to day or anything like that? Is there any figure that has been speaking to you more these days?
Mm, yeah. Um, well, we most recently were learning about Dorothy Day in our speaker series. We had a wonderful presentation by Robert Ellsberg, who wrote many books about Dorothy Day, and um, that was really special to just hear from someone who knew her and met her and lived with her in the Catholic worker houses. And um, one of the things he shared that really that I loved is that he said she was really fun to be with, that she didn't like being taken pictures of. So all the pictures of her, she's very stern and very serious, but in reality, she was really joyful and loved to get to know people and talk to people, and she was just really fun and joyful and light to be around. And that was like, you never could get that from like looking, even maybe reading some of her writings. You wouldn't know that because it's someone else's experience of her. But that was just very very lovely to hear. And then I would say Brother Victor is a kind of, he might not be called a saint, but he is a kind of ancestor for Adam and I, that we read him a lot. He talks about, waking up and practicing in the early morning darkness and spring coming to the monastery and, taking care of the sheep. Like he just gives a sense of his life. He has this one book on the daily, so it's like a reflection every day. But he feels very present with us as we learn more about his life and, um, really contemplate also how to continue his work in this place. Um, and then, Thich Nhat Hanh, my teacher, feels like someone who's just very present. And when I was just saying last night to someone that just thinking about all that's happening in our world and how tumultuous these times are, and the wars, genocides, like just what would his response be? Just kind of really wanting to dwell with him, um, and get guidance from him. So yeah, a bunch of different.
Yeah, people come
Yeah.
up. And well, on that note too, because I was reading about it. You received lamp transmission from Thich
Mhm.
Nhat Hanh, and I was reading up a little bit about how that goes, and there's some great pictures from the Plum Village community up that you can kind of see some of the ceremonial s- s- like I guess main points of the ceremony. Um, but also too, there's a brief written piece by Thich Nhat Hanh that talks about what's the meaning of this transmission that's going on.
Mhm.
And there was something very moving towards the end of the piece that was basically suggesting that there is this trust, or this, I mean, maybe trust isn't the right word, but there is this sense that the disciple will is at the point where the transmission happens and occurs, and the teacher is now kind of a living within the disciple or living within the student, and is walking with the student as they go about their life, is seeing what they're seeing. And it was very moving to read. And so just to your thought about bringing Thich Nhat Hanh into this world as we contend with so many different hostile environments, the climate crises, all the different crises, all the different wars, and everything that's going on. Yet your teacher is living through you, and there's this element that's there. What what has that experience been like in your life as of recent, but also too, I mean, just with that with receiving that transmission, and what has that experience felt like for you since it happened?
So I received the lamp when I was in 2007. I was still a nun. It was in Vietnam. We were traveling in Vietnam. That was very special to receive the lamp in Thai's homeland. Um, and it just ever since it has really felt like I have been entrusted with something that it's you are literally given a lamp from your teacher, so he lights it from the lamp of the ancestors of the you know um, ancestral teachers, and then places it in your hands, and there's this sense of how to keep that light bright, how to keep that alive so that you can pass it on to others as well, so that generation after generation will have this light to live by. So I think there's just always since that time been a sense of responsibility to Thai and to the tradition and to all those who, you know, go back all the way to the Buddha. And then when Thai passed, well, first when Thai had a stroke in 2014, so 7 years later, I know many of us Dharma teachers, I know I felt this, that I kind of felt, oh, I have to uh, transmit him more now because he wasn't able to talk or give teachings anymore. And so I asked other friends who were Dharma teachers, and they said they had the same feeling that Thai was more present in us after his stroke, because it's like, you know, and so that's also been a kind of walking with Thai. And then when he passed away in 2020, was it 2021, 2022, this sense of like really needing to carry him into the world, you know. Um, and so often when I do walking meditation, because he really emphasized that practice when I'm leading others in walking meditation. Sometimes we have a group, we do a walking in Prospect Park, um, a mindful walk, and or even on any retreat, I'll kind of feel like I'm walking in his footsteps and that he's walking in front of me, because his way of walking was just so beautiful, so grounded, so full of peace. And when I walk and share that practice with others, I really feel he's with us.
Did did you get the sense that when he was walking, there was always this sense of balance that he had when he like there was never like a an imbalanced moment, or did it feel like there was just so much care that was happening and so much awareness, or maybe some sort of combination of all of it? Because I've seen some parts of a documentary or something like that, maybe a few years ago, where that was when I first kind of really started to understand who Thich Nhat Hanh was, and what the Plum Village tradition was all about, and what the monastic lifestyle was like. And the walking meditation was featured many times throughout, and there's this care, and there's this slow tempo to the pace, and yet it's like a full trail of people that will be behind him, and everyone's doing their own walk, and yet they're also following the footsteps of someone that is guiding them. What was something that you got out of I guess watching Thich Nhat Hanh move and walk and go about it, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, how has that kind of continued to resonate for you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. he really, I think, one of the biggest teachings he offered all of his students was um, he really practiced what he taught. And he really moved mindfully. And whether it was on a formal walk or whether it was from the car to the dining room or to the meditation hall, he didn't rush. Even when we would be in the trying to get a flight in the airport, he might walk a little faster, but it wasn't rushing. And he often would walk just it would like stun people in public who would not, everyone's just going about their, and they would see this Zen master just walking, and it would just be this Dharma talk, this embodied Dharma talk, that it's possible to even, walk to your plane as a free person, as a person, very much delighting in each step. So I I would notice that, there would be this very profound settling that would come over all of us as we would walk together. Um, a very deep silence, even if we were 1,000 people, there would be such a profound silence. And he led peace walks, in Delhi, in Paris, in the heart of LA, busy urban centers, and thousands of people would show up and just walk silently with their whole being. And it was really powerful to, I remember we organized a peace walk in LA, and we were walking around this park, and as we would arrive, like shops with loud music, they were so kind of moved, they would turn off the music, and just passerbys would be like, what's this? I need to join. And they would feel compelled to walk with us. Like it just transformed, like the energy on the street of busyness, of like, sort of chitter chatter, and people would just fall silent and just really know they were in the presence of something very sacred. Um, and so, he was very clear, like it's not like very serious. You have to do, focus so hard and do it perfectly. He never wanted people to get stressed. He would say, you know that you're doing walking meditation correctly if you enjoy it. And so it was this invitation every time to just come and enjoy ourselves, and enjoy the beauty around us, and enjoy the community, enjoy our own steps, our own breathing. And, so much happiness, so much well-being was created, is still created, because there's many communities who practice walking meditation together daily. And so it was a very healing and joyful experience.
That's wonderful. It's encouraging in many different ways. One in which I particularly appreciate that accessibility of, like, so long as you feel like you're enjoying doing it, then like, there's not
Mm-hmm.
uh like a step book or something like that necessarily. There's not like a rigid, firm way about doing it. It's like, so long as you are enjoying the practice of it and getting something out of it for yourself, then you're likely doing it correctly. But also too, um, there is this invitation to enjoy the world about you in places where there is so much commotion. And as you walking in Prospect Park, that's a really wonderful, beautiful park, but it's right in Brooklyn. I mean, that is there's a lot of frisbees flying around. There's a lot of slam ball and barbecues and all that kind of stuff. But there's this invitation to not just do it there, but also in the heart of LA and in these busy areas. And it can invite a lot. It can be contagious in a good way. You can get some eyes on you. You can get some people to say, like, oh yeah, like, the world is more than just the errands that I'm running right now. It's more than what happened in the news today. This moment is here and now, and I'm a part of it. And I can take that time. It can just be a moment, and I can take that time and do that walk, or I can turn down my music and allow for people to enjoy the music at the moment. So that's a really a wonderful thing. I'm so thank you for sharing that. And as far as like this with going back to the lamp transmission, just receiving that light of the ancestors. I know that right now you're doing a lot of work with ancestral wisdom, and coming up pretty soon, you have a retreat, Healing Our Way Home, Ancestral Wisdom for Joy and Liberation, that's happening at Spirit Rock, and that's going to be happening um, very soon, Sunday, April 6th.
Mm.
And uh, and then also too, I mean, I know that you've written extensively about this. I'm just going to try to pull it here. Healing Our Way Home, Black Buddhist Teachings on Ancestors' Joy and Liberation. This is a
Mhm.
book that recently came out as well. And it feels like being in touch with ancestral wisdom and walking in their footsteps, having their footsteps maybe walking within you. I was wondering what the engagement has been like for you, and and what are maybe some things that you might be sharing at that upcoming retreat?
Oh, um, well, one of the main teachings of Plum Village is that, um, you know, we are a continuation of our ancestors, that we don't it come to be separate from all those who have come before us, that, in every cell of our body is our parents and our grandparents, and not just our, family line, but our spiritual lineage, our land ancestors also. And so when we open ourselves up to get in touch with all of those streams that flow into us, right, we can touch a lot of strength, and also not feel so alone. And we know that our ancestors are in every cell of our body. And also, their suffering has been transmitted to us. And so that's also part of why we are on a spiritual path, because we know we need to transform that suffering that our ancestors transmitted to us. And so practices like touching the earth and connecting to the earth to release our suffering, to lay it down and help ask the earth to help us transform it. These are all very deep and important practices. Um, but yeah, I think really taking the time to connect to our ancestors, to investigate what are the qualities that I have that come from them. The good qualities, the strengths, because we also don't want to overly take responsibility for something that isn't, like, it's not because of us that we have this skill or this, physical strength or certain things, right? We can't take credit for that. So that's also a good humility practice, because our culture tells us, oh, this culture of individualism, everything you achieve, it's because you were great. But we know that there are many other people that are flowing into us, helping us be who we are. And so the humility of honoring them, and also um, that we don't need to blame ourselves also for the patterns that were passed on to us that are not healthy. We didn't create those either. It doesn't mean we don't have responsibility to heal them, but we don't need to blame ourselves. So it's this lovely kind of opportunity to investigate who are the people that have shaped us. What are their wonderful qualities? What are the things that um, you know we want to shift so that we don't pass it on to future generations, unhealthy patterns. um, so it can be a very interesting, very potent place of inquiry.
And I really do appreciate the work that you're doing. I mean, across the board, but with this with this healing component, the healing, I think, is very important for you, sharing healing techniques. You work with children, really children. You work with children to teens to adults to everybody. I know that you do affinity groups, or you'll be working with BIPOC sanghas. You'll be working with people that are um, uh, activists and everything like that. You really focus on making sure that those people are taken care of, and and to be able to do the work that they do, or even just to better their lives. And I really do appreciate everything that you're doing there. And as we've kind of been talking about, we've been talking about like the crises that are affecting individuals, that are affecting nations, the world, environmentally, nationally, global politics, various things like that that are happening, that are putting things at a full boil right now, that are making things really difficult for a lot of people. And there's this component to it where there are multiple sides to how to address it. There are people that are the helpers, that are going out and trying to help people. There are people that are inflicting the damage, and they are more or less going to continue um, their efforts to do that for their reasons, and all of that. And then there are the people that feel like they are not getting the coverage uh, in the news or in the world as much. And these are people that are uh, complacent, complicit, that are just kind of not really feeling like these crises are affecting them necessarily, and that are uh, having issues with recognizing the change that is to come, or the change that is necessary, and all those things. How do we talk to them? How do we address the people that are looking at this apartment building fire and saying, "Well, my room's not on fire, so I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
still live like everything's fine in my apartment,"
Mm-hmm.
and not knowing that the whole building is being affected by this, and
Mm-hmm.
the whole infrastructure is being affected by this.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I feel like that there's this healing that we need to do to bring about change for the better, and there are people that are working towards that. That are people that need to be healed to stop the commotion that's going on, the hurt that's going on. But then there are also people that are unaware of how much it affects them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think the Bodhisattva path is to, you know, help everyone to see that, you know, what's happening and how to ameliorate the suffering. Um, and so, for those who are committed to a spiritual uh, path, it's important to find skillful ways to um, support collective awakening. You know that we need to be on a path of awakening ourselves, of really learning to see our minds clearly, and work with our uh, strong emotions and the things that are obstacles to our awakening and full development. But we also need to support collective awakening and be part of communities that um, are active, are engaged in what's happening in the world. And so there's, for instance, the Buddhist Coalition for Democracy recently started you know, all Buddhist kind of denomination effort to bring awareness to, the United States is no longer considered a democracy as of February of this year. And so there are things we can do as Buddhists or as spiritual practitioners to raise awareness, to join, others who are bringing attention to the loss of democracy, to this fire you mentioned that's raging. And it's important to you know to 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 work with people who might not want to see that this is happening, in a way that doesn't dehumanize them or um, further this us them narrative, because a bodhisattva uses skillful means. Like, there are stories in the sutras of bodhisattvas going into bars, even though they've taken vows not to take in substances that hinder their mindfulness. But they'll pretend to drink alcohol alongside other people in the bar and then befriend them and then find a way to lead them out of that. Right? So that's just one of the examples of like skillful means. So what does it mean to befriend someone who doesn't see that their apartment is also at risk when the whole apartment building is burning, and sort of not put them down, not yell at them or insult them, but just sort of say, okay, like, if they're not seeing that, it's because probably they are in denial and it's too painful to see that. So it's easier for them to look away or to make some other story. So a bodhisattva would, work with that and try to help them feel safe enough, feel, that they could handle it if they would look at the truth, and that they would be by their side when it hits, the pain of that hits, right? So, and maybe the bodhisattva would say, hey, here's how we can put out the fire. I need your help. you know? So, and sometimes, sometimes we have the words fierce compassion. Sometimes there are strong means needed to help people wake up. We may have to say no in a way that's very confronting to others. We don't do it out of hatred. We don't do it out of malice. But it may be very inconvenient for the other people, but it's done out of deep compassion. And so, telling the truth when people want us to keep silent, it's inconvenient for them, but if that's what needs to be done to, reduce suffering, to help awaken others, and we have to do it. It doesn't mean being nice and keeping people comfortable all the time. But whatever we do, it's not out of, a wish to eliminate others or to shut them down, but to try to bring them along if they are willing. Yeah.
Thank you for that, and that reminder to use that skillful means are at your disposal, but also knowing that too, like, sharing that example of the bodhisattva that goes into to bars and befriends somebody. Like, it can be on an individual basis. Like, there can be something where the skillful means that are used in that developing friendship between the bodhisattva and the person that's at the bar is maybe bespoke to that interaction, bespoke to that person, and that might not apply to someone else in the bar. It might not apply to somebody else down the street or anything like that. So, really being present in and understanding the other person is really helpful for that too. And thank you for your encouragement to be aware of it, beware of emotions, beware of how, and being careful of not dehumanizing somebody else because of their denial, which is, and as you very carefully put, is, it can have a root in avoiding pain. It can be too painful for that person to really see something. So thank you for that, because it just is, it's a part of the big uh, challenge that's going on right now. And I feel like it's easy to kind of talk about, like, uh, it's easy to talk about things in broad strokes, but of course we're all kind of complicated. We're all in this together, and we all have this inherited situation that we're in right now. And so it's good to be mindful of all of that. Well, thank you so much. And I just had two quick questions. One, as we come to a close on our conversation, but one being, if there's anything that you would like to promote, and that's the first question. And I'll go ahead and get you started on some of these things, because you have some really wonderful developments here. You have a book, "We Were Made for These Times: 10 Lessons from Moving Through Change, Loss, and Disruption." A book that we already mentioned, "Healing Our Way Home: Black Buddhist teachings on ancestors' joy and liberation. And you've also curated and edited Planting Seeds, Practicing Mindfulness in Children by Thich Nhat Hanh. And then you have multiple events and retreats that you're organizing. You have a BIPOC meditation Sangha at the Garrison Institute. You have some things coming up at Spirit Rock. I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to share or to shed some light on, but I would love to hear about it.
Sure. Yeah, so I recently moved to Substack. I have a monthly newsletter where I send out reflections so people can sign up there on my website, kairajewel.com. And I always share my upcoming events in that newsletter, but it's also on my website. Yeah, I would love for people to, stay connected to this vision of a center. And if folks are interested in, being part of that, volunteering, helping us with fundraising, those kinds of things, we need all the help we can get with just building up that new center, but also just to keep it in mind for in a few years when it's hopefully up and running, that people can come and do retreats with us there.
It's such an exciting development, and yes, absolutely. And the Give Butter fundraising campaign can be found on kairajewel.com. It's such an exciting development. And then the last question is a little bit more open ended, but is there any advice that you'd want to give to somebody that's moving along the Buddhist path that you would have wanted to have heard when you were kind of moving through it?
Mm-hmm. Um, hmm. Well, I did hear this, but I think it's important still, um, that well, everyone has the capacity to awaken, and that we can trust this. We can live into that and really give ourselves to it regularly. I think also, and we give ourselves to it wholeheartedly. And I think having a daily practice is really important. And so building that into our lives, to have meditation, walking, being with others in community, um, making practice a really important part of each day. Yeah.
Kaira Jewel, thank you so much for speaking with me today. This is such a treat, and I particularly really appreciate that last advice.
Mm.
Sometimes it can feel like your even your own self doesn't have the capacity for awakening, and so it's just as it makes that much more accessible as well. But
Mm.
I really do appreciate you taking the time today to speak with me, and I wish you the best on your upcoming travels and retreats. I hope that you'll make it to the airport with however many steps you might be walking towards it, and hope to be in touch soon. Thank you again.
Great. Thank you so much, Vincent. Appreciate you and this time. Take good care.